This is the Liz Harrison Show.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm Liz Harrison. This is the Liz Harrison Radio Show. Thank you for listening here on Vigilant Liberty Radio, and if you're listening later on K98talk.com, you're great too. It's Monday, January 19th. The observed birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah, the actual birthday would be the 15th. That's part of the reason why I'm a little bit annoyed with Fox today, but hey, I won't pick on them too badly. Anyway. So that means a day off for all of the federal and state employees, banks, etc. No mail. See, I've been ambivalent about this. This is one of those governmental holidays, and it's the one that I always get yelled at severely if I say anything like this about it because, you know, it's MLK. But seriously? This is filed under the government employees want an excuse, the unions want an excuse to not work for a day. As for up on the Hill, I think they're still up there, even if they're not answering their phones and saying that they're not really there, because we're on State of the Union Eve, which means I don't want to talk very much about politics because it's depressing. I mean, come on, the pregame consists of figuring out what ridiculous things the president is going to say. How much of a temper tantrum is he going to throw for the next year or so? Really, that's what it's all about. I mean, he doesn't have a majority in either house anymore. So we're going to talk all about income redistribution and the next freebies because, well, we can't talk about what we've actually done. Anyway, another thing that today is, for those of you that follow me on Facebook, I started out the day saying, it's Tim Elsa Day, Tim Elsa Day, Tim Elsa Day. What is Tim Elsa Day? Tim Wells is going to kill me. That's what it boils down to. Tim Wells is a blogger. He does reviews of videos or video games or whatever. He's entertainment. You know, one of those things that you go to whenever you don't want to deal with anything particularly heavy, although some people, I guess, would go to him for heavy content if they're deeply involved in video games. So he does Review Dad. He is Review Dad. You want to look that up. Last year, in August, so this has been a long time waiting. On August 7th, Review Dad issued a challenge if his Extra Life team could raise $2,000 for the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. He would dress up as Elsa and lip sync Let It Go. I know, everybody's fed up with that song, but put up with it for this, because this is absolutely hysterical. You can look up the video very easily on YouTube. You just type in on YouTube's homepage the search Tim Elsa. You will get it. Absolutely hysterical. Just priceless. If you do not laugh, there's something really wrong. And if you watch me on the Facebook, of course, I put up a link to the YouTube video. And the ensuing conversation was relatively interesting. As Tim Wells put it, don't tell anyone, but it's always Tim Elsa Day. Punchline involved is that Tim is in the minority in his household. Yes, their household is testosterone challenged. Any men who have only daughters know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, I went and said that his wife is so lucky to have a man who is so in touch with his feminine side. And his reply was, sadly, my feminine side filed a restraining order against my masculine side. If we don't laugh, we have problems, really. You have to laugh sometimes, folks. And this is it for you. This is the perfect State of the Union Eve video to get you laughing so that you don't cry. I mean, granted, tomorrow night the drinking games, I'm afraid to ask what they will be. I'm not suggesting any words because if I do, I think I might cause somebody to get alcohol poisoning. So I'm not doing that. I don't want to be responsible for encouraging people to drink when the president says certain words that I know will be repeated way too many times. So this is better than the drinking games that could end up getting you in the hospital with alcohol poisoning. Just saying. Laugh at Tim dressed up as a princess. It's definitely worth it. Anyway, onward and upward to other not necessarily State of the Union level information. It was brought to my attention by one of my lovely co-hosts on Friday nights with the Conservative Feminist Show. We have a girls' basketball coach who was suspended. The story came out on the 16th, so it's relatively old news. San Bernardino, California. So if anybody was wondering, yeah, of course it's in California, that liberal la-la land. But the coach was suspended after defeating an opponent 161-2. No, I didn't stutter. It's sad. It really is. That they have decided to suspend this coach. Really it is. Because it's not the fault of the coach. If anything, it might be a rules issue. As I pointed out on the Facebook, I don't have a problem with him. If people are going to have a problem with this, which arguably the referees and the entire high school sports system out there should have recognized that. There are a few things that could have been done. It's called mercy rules. I know they don't like to instate them. But if it's absolutely necessary, hey, do it. It's called, they went and they yelled at him over the idea of leaving his first string players on the court for the first and second periods of the game and putting his second string out only in the third. Well, I have a question for those people. Really, I do. Because this was a JV team. What are those JV players supposed to do? The first string JV players. I understand. They're really kicking rear and everything else, but there's a reason why you leave your first string out for a certain period of time, particularly in JV games. I mean, not so much in the high school. You could get away with a little bit more. But these girls are building up skills and getting playing time, which, by the way, is precious. They should know this. Time is precious when it comes to this. And obviously, this team has not been in the headlines every other week for doing this sort of thing, so arguably there are other teams that they play against that are actually competitive. And when they get to high school, they're still going to be competitive. So, playing time is precious. These girls want, particularly in the first string, they want to move on to the high school level. These students want to end up having schools look at them from the NCAA. They want to possibly end up with scholarships. So you're going to tell me that because the other team is not competitive at all, that the competitive players should suffer for it and lose playing time. How is that fair? Oh, I understand. They're so good, so they don't really need to practice. No, that's not the case. Unless you're going to show me their full record for the entire season and show me that they're kicking rear every time they go on the court, no. And even if they were, then it's an argument of, did the district put these girls in the wrong conference? Of course, that happens. You know, you have population fluctuations and schools get bounced up and down, and meanwhile their sport teams still compete. Anyway, they've suspended the coach for 2 games. And I'm thinking, what message are you teaching these students? Really? It's a bad thing if you do well. You're going to get punished for doing well. They're saying, oh, but that means playing the game with dignity. Really? Okay. Now, here's a thought for you. It was Bloomington High School playing Arroyo Valley. Arroyo Valley beat them severely. Did the Bloomington coach go to the Arroyo Valley coach and say something stupid like, boy, your team is great. Do you have some time where you could sit down and talk with me about how I could improve my players? I'll give you a little guess. Not a chance in hell. It didn't happen. Now that would be fair. What would be unfair would be if the Arroyo Valley coach told him where to go and said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to help you make your team at least competitive. That would be bad. I would be extremely angry with the coach, and I'd be saying, you know what? Go away. You really do need to be suspended and maybe not come back ever, because this is school sports. And it is junior varsity. This is where these students are supposed to be learning how to, well, kick rear, take names, and get the attention of the NCAA in the hope of possibly getting a scholarship, what have you. But I did go and pull the news report on this. So I'm going to let you all hear this, and then I'm going to say a few more words whenever it comes to, quote, playing with dignity and compassion or something like that. Okay, here we go.
A highly successful girls' high school basketball coach is now benched after critics say he ran up the score, ending with a humiliating 159-point margin of victory over the outmatched opposing team. Michael Anderson coaches for Arroyo Valley High School in San Bernardino. CBS 2's Jeff Nguyen has reaction to the coach's 2-game suspension.
For the second time this week, the girls' JV basketball team at Arroyo Valley High School competed without their head coach, who also coaches the varsity team. Michael Anderson is serving a 2-game suspension after his varsity team defeated Bloomington High School last week 161-2. Players' parents don't agree.
I feel it's very wrong. I feel like, what are you guys teaching the kids? To lose and not be rewarded? Are you teaching them to be a loser?
The coach has been criticized for not taking his starters out of the game until the third period. Some say he ran up the score. Myra Lopez was at the game and says Anderson did have his team run down the shot clock before they took their shots.
I think he was just trying to give the other team a chance at least so they can go ahead and try to make some scores.
Anderson is a walk-on coach, and the school district says the suspension is really a lesson in compassion for your opponents.
We are really emphasizing that we want them to pursue victory with honor. And that means playing the game with dignity.
But on talk radio, the punishment of a winning basketball coach who has turned around a losing program was a hot topic.
We want our kids to have grit. You know how you get grit? You lose 161-2. That's how you get grit. You don't get it winning 161-2 for 7 straight years.
Both coaches in last week's game were not available for comment. In San Bernardino, Jeff Nguyen, CBS 2 News.
Okay. And the sports talk person was right. You don't get grit by winning by such a high margin. But this had not been a winning team before. So this coach has turned them around. And this takes us back to the whole, we placed them in the wrong conference thing. There's a very good reason to do this, by the way. I know it's hurtful, or you may think it's hurtful to the other teams. But if you go and tell the coach to hold back the players too much, and they're improperly placed in conference, then how do they know that they need to be moved? You basically set a glass ceiling for performance on a team that could arguably keep on improving. It's not their fault that they improved so well. You don't punish the coach for improving the team. This is what happens. Believe me, I know. I've had a kid who has been in soccer placed in the absolute wrong conferences multiple times. Why? Because of the name of the soccer club that he was playing for, or what have you. And this is not something where they can get out a crystal ball and say, oh, this team is going to do this based on previous experience, especially when you have a coach that's turning the team around. How do they know? This is how you get, it's a rough season for the opposition, to be sure, or at least some of it, but it lets them know, hey, wait a minute, this team is really, really good. We put them in the wrong conference. We've got to move them. You can't know that if you tell them to soft pedal everything. And what are you teaching the kids? Because what is the alternative? If they don't have a mercy rule, if they don't have a conference-wide mercy rule, which they usually do not, then what happens? You're telling the students that they should go out there and act like a bunch of idiots and make stupid moves intentionally just so the other team doesn't feel hurt? They took it up to the end of the shot clock. That's the best they could do with what they were given. If you want them to hold it back more, you have to give them the tools to do that. And honestly, I don't think that's a good idea. This goes back to the whole nonsense of the participation trophies. You know what they are? There's something that at the soccer fields, participation trophies, medals, ribbons, what have you. These are things that if they get 2 seconds away from their parents so that their parents don't have the chance to stop them, they end up in the freaking garbage can. This isn't about making the kids feel better. Kids know. Kids know that a participation trophy is not worthwhile, with few exceptions. My kid has a participation certificate for one thing that he has done in his entire school, scouts, sport life. There's only one. And that is, he does have other ones. They get a little participation trophy for when they used to participate in soccer tournaments back before they would have finals and playoffs. In other words, all of the teams got the same darn trophy because they didn't keep track of that because they were too young to have the winners and losers thing. When they got old enough to have winners and losers, then the real trophies came in. So just being there was the same thing, that it didn't matter how many wins you had. Everybody got the same thing because they weren't keeping track at that age. So that doesn't count. That's different. But when you actually have winners and losers, blah, blah, blah. The kid got a certificate because he was participating in the regional Pinewood Derby. He didn't win, but he had to beat other kids to get there. So just participating is an accomplishment. You had to win something to get there. So the kid understood that. That's why he worried about where that certificate got to. He wanted to keep it. Now, if everybody in the whole pack had been given one, regardless of whether or not they participated in the regionals, he wouldn't have cared and it could have ended up in the garbage. Kids understand this. You are appeasing the parents when you do this whole participation trophy nonsense. You really are. And I can understand why. I mean, parents put out a heck of a lot of money and they hate to walk away with nothing. Well, maybe they need to come up with something other than a trophy. You know, something that the parents would like. Like maybe I've seen it in the trophy books, those little dog tags where they have the sport on one side and the kid's name and year, and or just the name of the sporting club and the year on it. There you go. Then the parents at least get something to show for the fact that their kids participated. If it has the kid's name on it. Bonus points, because then it's something that the parents could go and put on the kid's sporting bag. Like I've said for a while, it wouldn't be a bad idea for coaches to start doing that, because all the kids have the same type of bag. So you have these little tags on them that you could tell which one, and maybe the kids would be all excited about how many they've accumulated, showing how many years they've been in. That's a different type of deal. But the stupid little participation trophies, no, not so much. Kids know when they're being pandered to. When they're being given something they didn't really earn. And the kids that are really interested in earning something important, the kids that have the drive to win, are the ones that are going to put them in the trash. And you know what? The ones that the coaches for the upper ages, they would watch for the younger kids that would try to throw the participation trophies in the garbage. And then, whenever it would come time for those coaches in the upper ages to go and recruit, guess what? The kids who wanted to throw those trophies away were often on the top of the list for those other coaches to watch. Go figure. Because they knew that those kids had the drive to win. And I'm sorry, but you raise a whole society with zero drive to win. Raise a whole generation that way. You know what we're going to end up with? A country full of losers. That's it. They're going to have, and I'm not talking about people who are incapable of winning when they're outmatched, like this team here. The team that had only 2 points, they're not a bunch of losers. Let's be real, folks. I mean, theoretically, in today's society, there is no reason to think that at some point during that game, during one of the breaks, probably after the second period, what stopped those students from saying the hell with this and just telling the coach, forget it, I'm leaving? They knew they were losing. What stopped them? They knew they had to finish the game. Win or lose, they knew they had to finish the game. Now take it a few generations forward. If we keep on doing what we're doing now and playing these games with, blaming coaches for teams being in the wrong conference or what have you because the team improved severely because that coach's hard work. Yeah, that might happen more often. Instead of seeing these uneven scores and coaches getting penalized for it, you're going to hear news stories about the losing team leaving the field. Because, oh, poor us, we can't do this anymore. This hurts our feelings. We've got to get off this field. That's next, folks. That's the next logical step. Is that where you want your kids to be? You want them to be quitters. I don't think so. But hey, maybe you do. Maybe that's something that is going to become the new normal. Really, maybe it will. Because we're so concerned about their feelings, and we're making it right for them to think that it's a good idea to not put up with being hurt. Not put up with feeling bad when we lose. So maybe the next step is we're not going to finish the game because we're losing too much, and it's really not worth it. All it's going to do is hurt more, so we may as well just quit. Yay! Wonderful job, folks. Wonderful job, liberals. That's how you do it. And they'll do so wonderfully whenever it comes to going out in the real world and getting a job. Oh yeah, remember the helicopter parents that companies are complaining about now. The ones who are the kids who are silly enough, because they're still children. They may be in their 20s or even older. God help you. That when they get fired or they get yelled at by the boss for not doing their job, they go home whining to mommy and daddy, and then the boss gets a phone call from the parents. No, I'm not making this up. Yes, it does happen. That's a wonderful solution to the problem, don't you think? By the way, that's what happens whenever parents fight the battles for their kids. Think about that. You have kids. They get into a fight, an argument. I mean, I don't mean getting into a fist fight necessarily. I mean, they're kids, they're arguing. There are kids who treat each other like crap when they're in the cafeteria. Mommy and Daddy hear about it when they come home. And then Mommy and Daddy go and call the school and call the parents of the other kids, and they go and argue and fight and try to protect their precious little angels. You're setting them up to do that in the workplace. Just saying. If you don't already own a house that has a fully furnished basement, you better start now. If that's the way you're doing things, because that's going to be where your kid is going to be when you die. And the kid is 40 or 50 years old or older. Yeah. There's your future, folks. Coddle them. Make sure they stay with you forever. The students that lost that severely, maybe they'll quit the sport. Maybe the coaches will get smart enough to sit there and start taking advice from the coaches that win. Maybe the coaches that win will be kind enough to give advice in the first place. And maybe if they're truly outmatching all the other teams that they're playing against, they'll get moved to a more competitive group of schools and teams. Whatever the solution may be. Hopefully, it will not involve coddling the losers. They're doing something wrong, one way or another, whether it is the coaches or they're in the wrong conference, whatever. Something's wrong, but it's not the coach's fault. Anyway, it is the bottom of the hour, so we're going to go to the news now. Talk to you in a few.
This is Vigilant Liberty Radio News from Independent Journal Review for January 19th. Amid reports the Affordable Care Act is working, some news about the decreased number of uninsured and the doctors who provide our health care is troubling. Roughly 60% of the people who have recently received insurance have done so through Medicaid and not the insurance offered through the Obamacare exchanges. According to studies, roughly 2/3 of doctors accept Medicaid, and they are paid significantly less for the services they provide. This means patients on Medicaid are more likely to be denied appointments or face longer wait times for care. And a poll of doctors show a majority plan to leave their practices early and are reducing daily workloads, meaning those who were previously uninsured will have a harder time finding a doctor or receiving quality care. Australian golfer Robert Allenby was kidnapped, robbed, and beaten while in Hawaii to compete in the Sony Open. Allenby was allegedly abducted from a bar Friday evening, thrown into the trunk of a car and taken to an underground parking garage where he was reportedly beaten and returned to the trunk of the car. Allenby was then dumped in a park where a man helped him get a cab back to his hotel. Allenby has earned more than $27 million through his PGA career, but hasn't won a tour event since 2001. Allenby is currently recuperating and working with the FBI to capture his abductors. The state of Oklahoma carried out the execution of inmate Charles Frederick Warner on Thursday, 9 months after a botched lethal injection in April of 2014 led the state to place a stay on executions. The case is sure to reignite the debate over the death penalty in the United States. IJ Review reports Shonda Waller, Warner's mother, said, quote, "I don't see any justice in sentencing someone to die. To me, the justice is in someone living with what they have done to you, having to live with that for the rest of their life knowing they will never walk out those bars." Warner was convicted of the 1997 rape and murder of his then-girlfriend's 11-month-old daughter. And the Clint Eastwood film American Sniper, based on the life and military career of American sniper Chris Kyle, set records during its opening weekend, taking in an estimated $90.2 million at the box office. This breaks the January record for highest grossing opening weekend, previously held by the movie Avatar in 2010. American Sniper also set the record for highest grossing January Friday opening at $30.5 million, beating out Cloverfield's 2008 record of $17.2 million. Many people on social media posted pics of long lines and stories of sold-out showings of the film. This has been Amy Curtis with your Vigilant Liberty Radio News from Independent Journal Review for January 19th.
Hi, this is Jason Dibbler, co-host of Q with a View, heard every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on FTR Radio. Right now, FTR needs your help in making the jump into the 21st century through some long-needed equipment upgrades. This is where you, the great and loyal listeners of Great Conservative Talk Radio, can really lend a hand. Visit GoFundMe.com/helpupgradeFTR right now. Your assistance, no matter how small, will help to ensure that FTR can continue to offer some of the best conservative radio on the interwebs. Your donation of $50 gets you up to 60 seconds of airtime on FTR Radio 4 times. For $100, your ad will run 10 times, or if you don't want to run an ad, you can have 30 minutes of FTR airtime to talk about anything you want. There are other thank yous for other levels of giving as well, but those are some pretty great offers. We hope you'll consider making a small donation to help keep quality conservative talk radio alive and thriving on the internet. Visit GoFundMe.com/helpupgradeFTR today. Thank you.
Hi, this is Steve Hamilton, station director at AltCon Radio, and that sultry voice you're listening to is Liz Harrison on The Liz Harrison Show.
We're back. One more little thing when it comes to the sports. And a little disclaimer here at the beginning. For the record, I hate, despise, absolutely cannot stand the New England Patriots. Had to get that up front. But, come on now. Deflated footballs? Really? Do we really think that that makes a difference with Indianapolis? Come on now. I'm sorry, the previous issues that team had, the evil Patriots. Remember the debacle over the claims of stealing playbooks or something like that. That is something. Partially deflated footballs? Not so much. Like they said, if they found it's true, fine who deserves to be fined and get over it. Don't sit there and try to say it made a difference in the score. I mean, granted, I really don't like this just guarantees I will not be watching the Super Bowl. Not that that was going to happen anyway, because the Steelers are not in it. So, I don't care. It's like I don't have a dog in this race, so it's been a done deal since the Steelers got themselves out of the playoffs. And yes, that is the case. The Steelers defeat themselves. They can grasp defeat from the claws of victory. So, I know that. It's depressing. I'm not going to get into all of the general opinions I have as to why that happens now, because I'll just get angry, my blood pressure will go up, and my more loyal listeners will be extremely upset with that, and they'll try to calm my rear down or something. But, yeah, get over it. Doesn't matter. Really doesn't. If they do something worse against Seattle during the Super Bowl, maybe we'll talk, but whatever. Doesn't matter to me. Anyway, onward and upward. Liberal derangement. I gotta love it. $90.2 million. $90.2 million. Suck that, Michael Moore. Besides, you haven't been relevant in quite a long time. We all know this. All the liberal haters over American Sniper. See, I've been toying with this whole idea in my head for a while now. The concept of violence and war in movies and other forms of entertainment, and I couldn't help but think of Gamergate too. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is the reason why American Sniper has done as well as it has, and will continue to do as well as it's doing, because this is only part one. We do understand this. There are piles of people like myself that have the general opinion that while it's nice to have the big screen in front of you and the awesome sound system, assuming that you have a reasonable theater that doesn't reside in a steel pool building where the rafters rattle every time the sound goes too high. Yeah. We don't like the idea of paying to go to a movie theater, to sit in a seat that may or may not be more comfortable than anything we have at home, not have the ability to hit pause if we decide we have to go to the restroom. Now, granted, I used to be upset about the concept of not being able to imbibe during a movie, but that's been rectified. We have a movie theater that does serve beer and wine, granted at a premium price, but what do I expect at a movie theater? But, yeah, so that argument's gone for that theater, but it still leaves me with the idea that, do I really want to go there? You know, the sticky floor, other people who may or may not be considerate of those around them. You know, people that want you to shut the hell up and watch the damn movie and not annoy them. So, I may or may not go to see it in the theater. If I do, I'll probably get a beer or two. Anyway, you know, because that goes well with your popcorn and totally blows your diet and makes it so you can't eat or drink anything else for the entire day except for water and well, black coffee. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, American Sniper is still going to make more money. It's going to hit the DVDs. It's going to hit the digital video. It's going to hit the Netflix. It's going to hit the cable on demand. And it's going to keep rolling in the dough. And it hasn't even gotten into international release either yet. So there's that. And of course, on the international release, depending upon where it is, they're going to go through their second cycle of making money beyond the theaters there. So, yeah, my American Sniper is making a heck of a lot of money. And that's probably making a bunch of liberal heads explode, because they have been trying to tell us how evil violence and war is. It doesn't work, folks. And how this relates to the video game world is, can you name some of the top video games out there? And how many of them involve shooting and war? Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, for that matter, GTA and all of them. Yeah. They gotta have me some violence. They gotta have me some war. Or criminals or whatever. Anyway, this is something that the wackadoodle feminists that are trying to infiltrate the gaming industry are whining about. They create video games that take people through the various cycles of depression. Wow, I'm just leaping to go buy that one. I really need to go and explore my inner self with a video game and make myself more depressed. That sounds like such a great time. And really, male-dominated video games, really, come on now. I know some women who engage in the various shooting games and whatnot. I don't. This requires hand-eye coordination that is beyond me. I'm lucky that I can maintain a relatively decent word per minute level when it comes to typing. Oh, excuse me. But that's because I have arthritis, and I've injured my hands over the years. The most spectacular situation of that was when what most people consider freshman year of high school. I was still in junior high at the time because of the way our school district is, or at least used to be, set up. I had been putting tape on the edges of chorus risers that are made of metal, and they pop up, the foldable chorus risers. We had to mark them to show where people were supposed to stand. Some idiot set them up and didn't set the lock. So they collapsed on my hand when somebody went to try to step up on them. Thankfully, they didn't follow through. They had just started to put their foot up, but they didn't put their full weight on. So the risers fell on my hands. I didn't break any bones, but man, were my hands swollen for a long time after that. And ever since then, when it gets cold out, my hands hurt like hell. And I can't move my fingers as fast as I'd like, hence the complaint about the words per minute. So video games were never a big deal for me because it goes way back to, 9th grade. I just never really got into them because I simply couldn't do them. So, but there are women who have other issues as far as they're concerned. But how do we classify what are video games? I mean, look at the stupid King commercials that you have now. Those are video games. The Candy Crush, the Bejeweled, the Pet Rescue, whatever, the Bubble Witch, all of that. They're all video games, technically. So, when women say that they don't play video games, but they play those, they're not necessarily being truthful. But of course, it's also the fault of the people who do these lovely surveys, because I did see one float by maybe about a month ago from Rasmussen, And they were saying that there was a relatively low participation rate among women. But I looked at the questions and I realized they didn't clarify. I wonder what the results would have been had they done that. So here's a hint to you folks, any pollsters or anybody who knows pollsters. I'd love to see what the results would be. The real results. If you sat there and took into account all of those little mind-numbing things that people play on the Facebook. Because I'll tell you right now, the vast majority of the women, and men for that matter, on my friend list have participated in these games. I'm constantly getting requests from them in spite of the fact that I tell Facebook not to post any of my accomplishments or anything publicly. So, yeah, that's how I calm down at the end of the day. I'm too wired. I'll sit there and play one of those mind-numbing games to let my mind slow down and go to sleep. But, really, having a hatred for the shooting games? What good does that do? They do not promote violence, by the way, in the way that the quote-unquote professionals have been suggesting. Because the level of participation that is involved, we're talking a multi-billion-dollar industry. Multi-billion-dollar industry. Which implies that millions of people are playing these games. So if they truly did cause people to become violent in and of themselves, this country would look worse than the Wild West. You'd have people running around killing each other every day. No, it does not promote violence in and of itself. Arguably, the daily news desensitizes people to violence just as much as the video games. If it bleeds, it leads. The sensationalism, which, by the way, is the stock and trade of most news organizations now, including ABC. They were just pointing this out not very long ago. Good Morning America, tough news people, talking about blood and gore or just viral video. Really? Okay. So it all breeds violence? No, not quite. You have to have something else going on in order for that to happen. It may be a part in some cases, but we have had people who acted out violently who had no exposure to violent video games. So how do you explain that one? Anyway, when it comes to the American Sniper, snub them all you want when it comes to the awards. They won where it really counts, making the money. And why is that? Well, the American public understands on a very basic level that people in our military go out there and save our lives. In theory. You know, they agree that we would probably have far worse situations whenever it comes to terrorism in this country if we didn't have the military. I know there are a lot of liberals out there that say that they're just making it worse. No, that's not the case. If that was, we would have far more terrorist attacks on U.S. soil. So, on a very basic level, they understand the concept that was illustrated by Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. People sleep peacefully at night because there are men standing the line. And that's what they do. They stand the line. Not quite in the way that they suggest in that movie, but that's still the case. When it comes to the snipers, these are the ones that not only protect the American public, but they also protect our soldiers. They take out threats to our service people. That's their primary job. They kill people who would kill many of our service people. If you feel that too many people have died in these wars, it would be far worse if you didn't have the snipers. So, people are starting to understand that, partially because of this movie, partially because of other things, partially because of military experts that we've had flying across our screens and on the interwebs for years now. So, there's your fascination, folks. Because being a sniper, while you're not necessarily right, well, you usually are not right up close with your intended target, it's far more personal. It's far more personal than spraying gunfire on the battlefield. It's definitely far more personal than dropping a bomb from the sky. It's definitely more personal than setting landmines. So these people definitely will see their intended target in the scope. The trailer indicates really tough decisions that Kyle had to make. Because how do you do that? You're a father. You see a child that can cause harm to your comrades. Picking up weapons. Do you shoot or don't you? How do you forget about the fact that you're a father for that split second when you pull the trigger? And they worried about him, and another part of the trailer that is out there. Do you feel that you did anything wrong? And he said clearly that he would face his maker and justify every shot he took. The people wanted to know how that works. That's why they went to see this movie. And I really find it disingenuous to see the liberal outrage calling him a killer, a stone-cold killer. No. While he definitely took some shots purely on his own judgment, determining the level of how dangerous the individual was. Particularly, I presume the children, because, it's difficult to think that our military would give orders to kill children. But it's something that I understand. I heard it many times. This is not new to war. Our enemies using children as weapons. If I had a dime for how many times I'd heard a Vietnam veteran talk about women and children carrying bombs, women pushing carriages with bombs in them or guns and attacking American soldiers. I would be a very rich woman. And that's despicable. And those soldiers felt guilty if they ended up killing women and children, even though they knew that they could be just as deadly as anyone else. So no, it's not despicable for them to do that. They felt that it was. And Kyle probably felt that it was at the time. But he recognized at some point that it had to be done. You have to protect your own. And this is a mentality that is relatively foreign to most Americans. How do you wrap your head around that? How do you sleep at night? That's what the liberals are asking. Now, of course, I know a lot of conservatives that would say, if we don't kill them, they will kill us. And not just one of us, but many of us. It is self-preservation. You want to change the nature of this. Our soldiers are not the problem. They're doing their job. Our snipers are doing their job, even when they are killing individuals that should be innocent. But they didn't make them not innocent. The enemy did. The enemy has turned children into weapons, so why are you saying that our soldiers are evil for disarming them the only way they can? That's the reality. The evil people are not the soldiers that are killing to protect the lives of their comrades. The evil people are the ones that are arming those children and using them as weapons. We don't do that, by the way. You want to cry about us torturing people that would turn children into weapons. Think about that. You have children, look at them. What wouldn't you do to someone that would use them as a weapon? And on that note, it is about that time. Coming up in about an hour, if you're listening on Vigilant Liberty Radio Live, the right mics are on. And it is Monday. Their finest hour is on at 10 p.m. tonight. At least I think he's supposed to be. With Alan Bordius. And tomorrow I will be back, and I will talk State of the Union then, because His Majesty will be taking the floor. And I will not be able to avoid doing pregame, no matter how much I'll want to. So, if you want to avoid it, I won't feel terrible if you skip at least part of it. I'll try to stick to just the first half hour on pregame and then move on to something more edifying. Otherwise, have a great day, folks.